camera? You want me on camera, little Miss B? Oh. Hello, I'm Carissa. I explain it all, and in today's video, I'm introducing a new series that I'm doing called The Diary of an Alchemist. And it basically details my journey for the last 6 years through an intense inner transformational journey of shadow work, emotional healing, reparenting, inner child work, just all kinds of things in this internal world of mine. And my hope is that in sharing the events and the thoughts and the feelings that I went through over the last 6 years, by sharing that with you, that provides some kind of comfort or kind of benchmark for your own journey if you're going through any of that stuff. Because there's so much information out there, it can be hard to know what to trust. And if your intuition's telling you one thing, but other sources are telling you other things, it's just kind of hard sometimes when you're in the thick of it to know what is right, what is true for me, what is true, like objective truth versus my subjective truth, is what's empowering, what's disempowering. Like, it's so hard to sort through all that. So I don't claim to know all the answers, but I do know what my truth was through that journey. And there is a uncovering of that and a exploration of that. And I don't always get it right. And a lot of times it was really, really, really hard. And it was very, very lonely. And I think that's a really, really big reason for why I want to share my story. Because it's embarrassing. Some of it's embarrassing. Some of it's, there's a lot of guilt and shame and stuff, just like weird things that go on in my own psyche. I think we all have weird things that go on in our psyche, but like, there's stuff that like normally human beings we wouldn't share. And I think humans learn best through story, through hearing other people's stories or experiences. And it kind of helps to release some of that burden of shame or guilt or despair or depression or frustration with self or other or the world. Like, it helps to ease some of that, to hear that we're not alone in that. We're not the only ones going through it, that other people have gone through it, and to hear about people who have gotten through the dark tunnel and there is a light at the end of that tunnel and things do get better. And I've been on Reddit boards for the last several weeks, just kind of looking at people, like reading people's stories as they're going through it, and they're asking questions, and I'm like, I've been through all this stuff. I'd like to share it. And luckily, because my memory's not great, always, all the time, I've got journals to share over the last 6 years. These are all of my lovely journals, and some of them I've started to, like actually tabulate. I don't know if that's the right word, but like, make notes of like what was going on. But anyways, that's the last 6 years, and I have tiny writing. I have like really, really tiny writing. So I've got a lot to share and a lot to reference to be able to know what I was thinking and feeling at those times, because my perspective now is very different than what my perspective was going through it, especially like 6 years ago, 5 years ago. I was still me, but I was very closed off to who I could be because there were so many obstacles and barriers and conditioning to being me. And now that I've kind of moved through that, I'd like to share what it was like going through it and how to move through it, or at least how I moved through it. And hopefully that'll give either some insight or some just comfort as you're going through your own stuff. So how to know if this video series is for you. I shared this list of just different topics that I cover in my own journey over the years. I shared this in my last video, but I'll share it again here. So if you're going through anything that's like shadow work, spirituality, reparenting, emotional healing, inner child work, any kind of deconditioning, any kind of magical stuff, shamanistic meditations, energy work, being an empath, highly sensitive, Delulu and timeline shifting, masculine and feminine polarities of energy, regardless of what you identify as, this is just like the types of energy that are within that polarity and dealing with all of that. Frequencies, vibrations, law of attraction. There's so much around that. And a lot of what's been taught about law of attraction over the last several decades has been not trauma informed. And I'm so glad that this topic is coming to light now, because law of attraction, like, I do believe it works, but like, there's like if you've been through trauma, which like every human being has, it's just not as simple as it's been purported that it is, because there's a lot of limiting beliefs that go along with trauma, and if you don't address those, it's not going to work for you, right? In the way that you want it to. It's always working, but it's not going to work for you in the way that you want to manifest. So we're going to talk a lot about that kind of stuff. If you're into Carl Jung and individuation, personality types, holy guardian angel and union with that, duality, like merging different dualities within yourself, learning to live with and consciousness, which is you can have both polarities and dualities within you, and you can be both, and so can other people, and so can different truths coexist, and consciousness. Different types of self-soothing for our nervous system, metaphysical tools like tarot, divination, any and all of that stuff. So much fun. Metaphysical understandings, dimensions, all of that stuff. If you're into any of that and you're interested in any of that, I go through an understanding of all that. And what I really love is that when I started this journey 6 years ago, I wasn't into any of that. Like, I literally didn't know any of that stuff. And it all kind of came up as I journeyed. It came into my awareness. I would often feel something intuitively, and I'd follow that curiosity, and I'd uncover something, and then I'd have an experience, and then I was like, what the heck is this experience? And then I'd go search it, and it turns out that it's a real thing, and so then that would give me confirmation and validation for that, and then just it built and built and built, and so I just, looking back, I'm like, wow, that was an incredible journey. So much happened, and I'm like ready to come out of that hermit cave and like share this is what happened with me. And so if you're interested in any of that, I'm going to be telling my story here in this series called The Diary of an Alchemist. I'm going to be going through those journals, picking out the big key experiences, the ones that had a big impact, the ones that kind of shifted my perspective. At first, it's a lot of shadow work. The whole thing's a lot of shadow work, but at first it's kind of like integrating a lot of those different aspects. So that's what we're going to start with in this next video. In chapter 1, that's going to start with some of the understandings of what those different aspects of me are that we start with. So for me, I enjoy talking about my thoughts and feelings and things that happen to me. So hardly anything is going to be off topic. If you have a question about my experiences, I encourage you to ask it in the comments. Just remember that I am a human being, and please ask respectfully, knowing that I do still have feelings and would like to be treated with respect, and I will treat you with respect as well. But I think we can expand and grow so much more as a species, as individuals within that species, if we are open to sharing about things that can be vulnerable and deep and hard, and not in a way where like, I'm trying to get attention, pay attention to me, I'm going through this vulnerable experience. Rather, I have gone through those things and healed. They are not open wounds. I don't have triggered feelings about them. This is what happened, and here's what I learned, and this is how I am now from it. And so sharing vulnerably, it's not about like seeking any kind of validation from that. I've already given that to myself. And so I can stand wholly in my truth and just share what I've learned. And so that's why I'll be sharing vulnerably and honestly and openly. But yes, now I don't talk about anything graphically, and if I ever were to bring up something that may be graphic in nature, I would definitely give you a warning beforehand. But just know in general, we're going to be addressing the ego, the shadow side of things, everything that could possibly get triggered emotionally. It's not going to be off topic to be talking about any kind of feelings. So if you start to feel like it's too much for you, please feel free to walk away. It's okay to take care of yourself more so than to continue watching, right? Like, sometimes our brain and curiosity wins out over our emotional feeling, and I want to encourage you to always pay attention to your intuition and the way that you're feeling, and if your body's getting activated, take care of you. Self-care. That's like number 1 priority is self-care. Okay, and last thing I want to cover, total full disclosure and disclaimer, I am not a therapist. I am not a licensed therapist. I do not have a degree in psychology, none of that. I am not certified in any way to deal with the psyche, with emotional stuff, soul stuff, whatever. Like, I don't have any kind of certificates. This is me as a human being, a raw, normal human being, having a human being experience through my life. I am sharing my life stories, my inner thoughts and feelings, my internal world, how I processed everything. Now, Given that, I do research a lot. If I don't understand how to process through something, I go look it up and I watch videos and I read articles, and I have a really strong sense of intuition. And so I find whatever information out there resonates for me, and I take that in and I learn how to do things for myself, how to counsel myself, how to move through things. Now, if you can have access to a therapist, go do that. Like it is way easier on yourself to have someone else there holding space for you in difficult times than to have to learn how to be that for yourself when you are at your most incapable of being that for yourself. It is a hard journey. It's the way that I did it. So the reason why I say it is because if you don't have access to a therapist, if you can't afford like counseling or a therapist or anything, do not fret and do not despair. You can move through this on your own. Given that though, it's like you want to go study for the SATs without any guidebooks and just kind of like hope that you collect enough information to get by on your own, or do you want to just go buy the guidebook and like have that secure channel of like this is what you need to study. So it's like it's not, neither way is right or wrong. It's just like what's going to work for you in your circumstance. What can you afford? What do you have access to? But don't be discouraged if you don't have access to a therapist or a counselor, because it is possible to do this journey for yourself. Like I'm like the reason why I'm saying it is because like you are strong. Like human beings are very strong, very capable, very smart, very creative, and can be very intuitive. And so trust that you can get through this and move through this, even if you don't have access to those things. But I will always recommend, please, if you have friends, family who can support you, if you can journal, if you can like have a therapist, if you can, any way to make this easier and happier and like safer for yourself, do that. Yeah, I just want to be super apparent and upfront about that. And there are so many therapists and counselors, psychologists who have their own YouTube channels. Like, if you need that kind of direct content because you don't have access to a counselor or a therapist that you can actually like see and like have sessions with, go watch their content. Like they went to school for this, they're educated in these things. But if you're interested in hearing someone's personal human being story of how they move through things, that's what I'm making this channel for. So I just want to make that super, super clear. Of like what to expect from this channel, and that I don't know everything, and I'm not in that capacity to counsel in that way. I can only say from my point of view that this is my story and this is how I move through it, and my only hope for that is to bring you comfort and a sense of strength and camaraderie, maybe, and a feeling of not being alone. You're not going through it alone. You're not the only one who deals with all this stuff, like all this crazy stuff that goes on internally, like it's cool. It's cool. Like you're gonna get through this. I got through it. Here's my story, etc. So anyway, that's it for this intro video. Disclaimers, expectations set, boundaries set, all that good stuff. So that is it. That is the good, the bad, the ugly. Gonna be sharing all of that. If you're interested, stay tuned for this series. Yeah, I love my journey. I love deeply. I feel deeply. I think deeply, and I hope that's reflected back to you in this series, and that you enjoy, or at least find it useful. But yeah, thanks for being here. I'm Carissa. I explain it all, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.